I'm sorry, overrated Reggie Miller. Jesus Christ, that kicked my ass. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of the Bright Now podcast. We're recording this on Sunday, December 9th at 12:02 p.m. Eastern Time. My name's Dash, and I am the Jared Dudley to my Martian Gortat, my co-host, the Trail 3 biblical figure, TJ. How are you doing today, brother?
Polish Hammer, baby. I'm feeling great. Got a great game coming up tonight with the in-season tournament championship. So obviously we're going to be touching on that a little bit. Of course, we got to talk about some of the latest Suns disappointments, obviously with their loss to the Lakers, and then last night taking one down against the Kings. And then, going to touch on what we think of the in-season tournament as a whole, kind of what's led up to these two championship teams in this matchup tonight, along with it may be a little early for some of you folks, but we're gonna finally be touching on our MVP rankings so far this season, and then we're gonna wrap it up with a new segment we like to call Watch, Record, Netflix. So diving right into it, Suns lose against the Lakers the other night in the in-season tournament. Felt like we never really had a chance in that game, to be honest. I know we had it close at the end, and there were some officiating calls that could have gone our way that maybe would have broke it, but it really did feel like the Lakers were in control the whole time, especially when you look at those turnover numbers with the Suns with 20 turnovers. I'd seen from other sources on the night of that it was at like 23. So the latest numbers are coming from Basketball Reference. So that was definitely the most disappointing part of that game. LeBron was just easily the best player on the court, just controlled where everything was going, was an absolute maestro. Getting clutch steals. I know we've talked about that one a lot, that when Devin Booker basically just threw it into the post to LeBron. So just directing everything. So what do you think about that Lakers-Suns game with those turnovers, kind of LeBron's performance, or just any overarching things that you're worried about?
Well, man, I first do want to address the LeBron thing. As you know, TJ, I've been a Michael Jordan guy my entire life, but after that game, Michael Jordan, he lost a spot. LeBron James is the best player of all time. I'm sick and tired of acting like he's not. This man has not lost a single step, especially in the passing department. We talked about it earlier on. The passing is ridiculous. The ability to just run over anybody in his way or get around them is still just so it feels like the same as it was in 2014. When you saw that, you're just like, man, this guy is too damn big. It's just too much to stop. But going back to the Suns game as a whole, I don't want to be dramatic, but this might have been a little worse for me than for you. This might have been the worst Suns viewing experience in the past 3 years, just because that we had KD and Booker. And hear me out.
Had some hype around it for sure. It felt like a big moment coming into that game. So yeah, no, keep going.
It's just like the timeout call was atrocious, of course. At the end of the game, the ball stuck to the leg. Not a huge fan of that. Yes, the refs were giving Lakers that LA treatment that we're used to seeing. Our favorite dessert is apple turnovers, as you've touched on before. And yes, I've had some smart dudes who specialize in sports medicine tell me that, they think Booker isn't 100% healthy out there. But by God, that does not excuse our lack of effort there on the fucking glass. There were multiple possessions where we let guys grab offensive boards multiple times, just diminishing any chances that we had at making a comeback. They grabbed 21. I repeat, 21 offensive rebounds compared to our 8. And before you ask, is 21 a lot? The team averaging the most offensive rebounds is the Utah Jazz with 14. I mean, shit, fellas, can we close out a possession? I mean, was that irritating as hell for you too?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you look at the second chance points numbers on the season. The Lakers they average 10 second chance points per game. And I don't have that number in front of me for this game, but 21 offensive rebounds definitely led to more than 10 points. That's definitely the one part that's extra discouraging, that hand in hand with those turnovers. You're giving your opponent extra possessions, extra attempts at the rim, and you're just not going to win a lot of games when the opponent shoots 102 field goals and you shoot 75.
And like being a former hooper, doesn't it give you, like as a team, does that diminish your confidence, your morale when you give
100%, because you're working your ass off on defense to slide in rotation, contest a deep three or something, and then you just give it up on the back end. And it's just demoralizing, especially when it happens over and over and over and over and over again, right? So just puts you in a position of failure to a certain degree. It definitely limits your ability to win the game when you're just giving extra possessions away like that. Uh, but the silver lining that I will say about those turnovers is, we allowed 25 points off of turnovers, which off of 20 turnovers isn't all that bad, especially considering off of their 9 turnovers, we scored 18. So definitely a silver lining there where, hey, maybe it wasn't always leading to direct points on the other end. But I definitely believe, like, I'm of the superstitious type where you get a certain amount of makes per game, right? Like, it's just kind of the energy in the building. So even if they're missing those shots, they're getting misses out of the way, in my opinion. Guys are getting better rhythm, getting a better feel. So it definitely is just shooting yourself in the foot. And that's the biggest problem with it, is that not all the turnovers are forced turnovers, like some just throwing the ball out of bounds, different travels. Drew Eubanks with his million illegal picks that he set this year, like that's a really stupid way to get a turnover. Definitely frustrating from that perspective. But I mean, hats off to the Lakers, hats off to LeBron. I know you mentioned that you think he's the GOAT now. He's still second for me, ahead of Jordan. As you know, I'm a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar guy. I think we got to appreciate that longevity. I appreciate the college game, best college player ever. So shout out to Kareem. LeBron ain't passing him in my book. So that's I mean, I don't know how much more time we want to spend on this Lakers-Suns game. Just a real disappointment, especially when you see the Lakers go and just mollywop the Pelicans in their next game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Just the last thing I kind of wanted to ask you about was how did you feel about Devin Booker's performance as a whole? Did you feel like he was doing too much at points in the game? We're the biggest Booker stands you'll find in the nation. So I just want to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, he was 6 for 16, 6 assists, one of his worst games on the season. And it's I mean, I don't want to say it's totally been a pattern so far, but we have seen his stats in closeout games not necessarily be up to par for what his normal standard is. Part of that is the Lakers really keen in on Devin Booker. I mean, they've watched all the games that we've watched this year and saw that when Booker's in, it's just a much more well-oiled machine. And so part of it may have been that game planning, but you've got to be prepared for that if you're Devin Booker, and you got to be ready to put on a show and to really like help your team win. I mean, KD brought it. He was 12 for 17 with 31 points. Grayson Allen chipped in 21, shot decent from the field. So if we get a better Book game, it wouldn't be a surprise if we turn that around and win it. But he had 7 turnovers, right? And they felt like a lot of times they were very costly in big moments, especially down the stretch.
Absolutely, and we'll transition that into last night's loss against the Sacramento Kings, which was very unfortunate. Some crazy flagrants there at the end of the game right there. Some Sabonis big body moments out there. I'm personally a big Sabonis guy, obviously not against my own team, but man, was he abusing those bigs. Can you talk a little bit about that game?
Yeah, I think the story of that Kings loss is Booker shot 10 for 14, so kind of really was able to turn it around for him. The rest of the team was 30 for 69, still 43%, so not the worst thing in the world, but we gave up 15 offensive rebounds again and missed 8 free throws. So those 8 free throws right there, that's the point differential in the game. And if we just can box out a couple more times, maybe we're able to turn things around. So without KD, it's not the most discouraging thing in the world. We do drop to 12 and 10 into the 7th in the West. And I think we both just want to avoid that play-in game like it's the plague. Like, that's just it's not a recipe for success. So that was the biggest thing for me as far as that goes, especially when the Suns, they're second in the league in free throws made per game. So when you're just going to give up, when you're going to miss that many in this game, that definitely is another way that we're shooting ourselves in the foot. The offensive rebounds, that's been the story of the whole season, really. We give up the 4th most offensive rebounds in the league. So I think that's kind of our biggest problem as far as that Kings game went.
Yeah, and De'Aaron Fox is Clutch Player of the Year for a reason. He absolutely balled out. Really impressed by this Kings team, to be 100% honest. I mean, obviously we had KD hurt his ankle on that last with the sprain, but it was still a winnable game at the end of the day. As you said, the free throws were a huge issue. But we can go ahead and transition away from that and into the in-season tournament as a whole. Man, it's working, right?
Oh, 100%. I'm fully bought in. I think if you listen to even other sports shows, they're talking about basketball in November and December way more than they would have been before. Because a lot of times this kind of a dry stretch in the season with the NFL season picking up. So this was a really good way to kind of steal some of that conversation from them. So it definitely on board with it. And I mean, the biggest winner of the in-season tournament as a whole, outside of, Adam Silver getting his changes implemented, is Tyrese Halliburton. He'd only played one other national televised game up until that first one against the Celtics. And then he's just kind of put on a show for everyone in the league to be watching. I know we talked about player comps with him, and he feels scarily like Magic Johnson with just an improved jumper. I mean, even the form of their jumper looks the same. Tyrese Halliburton just has a little bit better mechanics and actually getting it to go in. So I think Halliburton, absolutely. Like he has the charisma for it. He has the personality. I getting a little ahead of ourselves talking about when they played the Bucks, but then he's looking at his watch after hitting the big time shot going against Dame, and just really feels like he's ready for the moment.
Yeah, you're talking to the biggest Tyrese Halliburton stan of all time over here. Let's jump right into it. I mean, he makes his national TV debut for the Pacers right here against the Boston Celtics. And first of all, I mean, this is the Tyrese Halliburton show, but let's talk about Indiana as a whole. Their crowd was absolutely electric. I mean,
well, I know people like to call New York the basketball mecca of the world, but in my opinion, it's Indiana. Like, those folks love basketball at all levels. Like, if you see some of the high school gyms that they have out there, like, they just buy into that sport. It is a Pacers town. The Colts, when they're good, it's awesome, but they aren't really worried about that. It's definitely a Pacers group, and just super happy for them and getting to experience this. I mean, they're looking at the best Pacer of all time, in all honesty.
I'm sorry, overrated Reggie Miller. Jesus Christ, that kicked my ass. Reggie Miller, I'm sorry. Tyrese Halliburton is coming for that spot, and who's to say he almost doesn't have it already? I mean, finals appearance, I'll hold myself back a little bit. But as I was saying about the crowd, I mean, they almost had me jumping out of my seat watching this game. Every single time Tyrese Halliburton takes a three, you see everybody up on their feet with and it's just a beautiful, beautiful sight to see. And they deserve everything that's coming their way with Tyrese Halliburton. As we talked about before, he's obviously the engine of this team. As we see him finish with his first ever career triple-double with 26 points, 13 assists, and 10 rebounds.
0 turnovers too, right?
0 turnovers. And that's what I was getting to. There's 3 things I really loved about this performance. My second favorite part, like you said, was the 0 turnovers. My third favorite part is that 7 guys finished with double-digit points in this game. That says a lot about the story as a whole, right?
He gets so many people involved on every possession. I think his assist percentage is the highest in the league right now. He gets everybody involved. He was a plus 15 on the night. And I also want to touch, like, Buddy Hield was phenomenal for them as well. 7 for 11 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3. He was a plus 29 on the game. So just absolutely phenomenal stuff from him. Jason Tatum put up some solid numbers too. I think he finished with like 30, 32 points, something like that. Minus 14. It felt like he was dueling with Halliburton down the stretch there. But Halliburton and the rest of his Pacers group, they came up with some really timely turnovers at the end there. Some really clutch buckets, and super impressed with what the Pacers are putting together.
Yeah, and just like you were touching on with Tatum, I mean, Tatum and Brown both had 30 points, and in most cases you would think that results in a win, even without Porzingis. But, Indiana has exhibited ability to get stops occasionally at the end of games, just as you had touched on. I mean, Derek White, one of the most consistent guys in the league that you kind of depend on to not make mistakes, had multiple bad decisions down the stretch, and through that crucial turnover there when they're trying to make a comeback, which, just like I said, very uncharacteristic of him. And going from my first point, I said my 2 favorite things was, the 0 turnovers, the double digits. But my first favorite thing is that I told everybody and their mom Tyrese Halliburton was that fucking guy. And I'm so glad everybody got to see it, all right? That's all I had to get off of my chest for a second.
And one more thing on the Pacers, which early in the season when we first talked about the in-season tournament, we thought that the Suns would have a decent shot because of all the guys on their team with minimum contracts that the $500,000 would actually benefit. Well, the Pacers, I think, have 10 guys that make less than $3 million a year. I know, boo-hoo, with only $3 million. It's so hard life, right? But they have guys that are super motivated to win this thing. Got the Lakers coming up next, and I like their chances. going into kind of what the Pacers Bucks games. I don't know if you want to dive in there yet, but they kind of just dared Giannis to take the game over. He was 13 for 19, 11 for 13 from the free throw line with 37 points. Exactly. So they were just, hey, if he's going to beat us, he's going to be the one to do it. We're going to try to put bodies in front of him, but hey, at the end of the day, we're just going to try to outscore you guys. Halliburton, again, he was +8 in the fourth quarter of that game. Just big shots, big passes throughout the stretch. And then, like I mentioned before, with his Dame time celebration, just kind of putting the exclamation mark on everything he did in that game.
So cool, and I hope a rivalry does come out of that. I assume it probably won't. Dame seems like he even retracted his statements a day later, saying that, hey, that's actually kind of cool. He knows the history about me and everything, which might be a slight in itself. But for this game as a whole, I told you in the call that I had missed the Pelicans versus Lakers game because I was a little sick. But for this, Pacers versus Bucks game, there was no sickness in the world that was going to stop me from watching this game. From me glazing Tyrese Halliburton. I'll say it. COVID, Zika, Ebola, smallpox, polio, you name it. I was going to cheer on my Indiana Pacers. And I did want to say that this is a just good team overall. I feel like this game really exhibited it. Obviously Tyrese Halliburton is the engine, but it's huge with Miles Turner, cleaning the glass whenever he can, beating shots off the backboard, hitting trail threes. Buddy Hield, as you touched on, catching and shooting every pass like he's supposed to. Bruce Brown being the dirty work player, being able to get randomly tough-ass buckets throughout the game. And Benedict Mathurin, the U of A guy, has all the confidence in the world. I mean, how many mid-range pull-ups do we see just cross, in his face? Obi Toppin coming out of nowhere, flying in for a lob. TJ McConnell coming in and mucking shit up. I love this team. I'll be 100% honest. And I'd even mention Nemhar out there doing a pretty decent job on Giannis, getting into him at the top whenever he brought down the ball. I just, let me read out the stat line for you for the engine guy, Tyrese Halliburton. As you mentioned, he had 27 points, 15 assists, 0 turnovers, 7 rebounds on 57% shooting on about 26 difficult flip shots on Brook Lopez. I've never seen somebody attack Brook Lopez like that over and over and just continue to finish over him. Feasting over him.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I don't know how much more. Yeah.
What'd you see from the Bucks angle on Damian Lillard's aspect?
Damian Lillard's gonna do Damian Lillard things. He's gonna shoot a lot of threes. Not gonna play a whole lot of defense. He had a quote. I can't remember if it was after this game. It could have been before. He made a comment that he doesn't even feel like he's hit his stride yet. Overall, I don't know how much I agree with that. He's still putting up, really solid numbers. I think he's top 5 in the league in fourth quarter scoring. So I don't think I'm definitely not hitting the panic button on the Bucks whatsoever, especially when you just have those two guys at the head of it all. But the defense is questionable for sure. They give up a lot of points. It's not the same Bucks that we've seen in the past few years. The vibes are just overall off in Milwaukee. There's a lot of stuff coming about people arguing with Adrian Griffin. We see Giannis every time out. He goes and sits on the scorer's table for the first 75% of the time out, which is just weird. I don't know why he wouldn't want to be involved with his teams, especially when all the talk about Giannis is how good of a teammate that he has been. So I think that's a little questionable. So we'll see if they'll be able to turn it around. Obviously, they aren't a bad team by any stretch of the word. We're talking about them all in the context of them being a contender for the championship.
Yeah, third seed in the East. I think
exactly.
They're okay.
Yes, exactly. But when we talk about projecting for what's going to come in June, there's still some question marks with the Bucks that we probably didn't expect to see.
Yeah, and another question mark that I wanted to hit on was there were multiple times throughout the game, and obviously this is, Indiana's Texas Roadhouse bread and butter is just, inbounding the ball, pushing it up court. But there was a moment in that third quarter where Indiana was making a run, and the Bucks were making a run, and in order to suppress it, Indiana, they inbounded the ball to Tyrese Halliburton, and there was just a streaking Isaiah Jackson down the floor for an easy rim-running dunk. And we look at the replay, and Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo are below the free throw line before this play happens. They're just straight up not looking at the ball. As you said, maybe the vibes are off, but that's just never acceptable at any level of basketball. I give a fuck if it's Jimmy Junior High to Henry High School to fucking college basketball and NAIA, NBA. That shit cannot happen. In conclusion, though, I do want to be clear to all of our fans listening out here. If this was a 7-game playoff series, I'm still taking the Milwaukee Bucks. I'll just be honest.
I think I agree. I definitely think I agree with you there as well. But hey, that's the beauty of the in-season tournament. You get one shot to move on and survive, right? So I think that's why it's been extra fun to be able to see that kind of stuff. So we'll see how it plays out the rest of the year. But I do know that we want to touch on the other team coming into the championship, the Lakers, who their first game like we touched on earlier, they handled the Suns in that first game. Then they just absolutely destroy the Pelicans in that game. I know you said you weren't able to get your eyes on that. You didn't really miss much. At the end of the day, it really comes down to Zion looks fat, for lack of a better word. He's moving slow. There was all the jokes on Twitter that you saw. There was the one possession where he just looks like he's kind of wobbling up the floor, bringing the ball up. I'm not totally sure. I think Charles Barkley had mentioned this too at halftime, where he didn't really understand why the Pelicans were relying on Zion to create so much offense. Like, it seems like sometimes he gets to the rim and instead of thinking about scoring, he's like, oh, let me get the kick out. Let me try to get somebody else involved. When Zion needs to be used as a finisher, like he needs to be used much more like an Amari Stoudemire versus a Nikola Jokic. That's just what his play style fits better. So there's definitely some question marks for me with the Pelicans. People love to talk about their depth. But the Lakers were really just able to put it on him. LeBron was an absolute maestro in that game, 30 points, 9 for 12, 8 for 8 from the free throw line. Didn't even need a big Anthony Davis game to get it done. I think he finished with 16 points. So it's just they felt like the Lakers kind of reminded the Pelicans that there's still levels to this in the West and that LeBron is still one of the top 5 to 10 players in the league.
Yeah, that's where it's getting scary. You know, there were points, I think even preseason, a lot of articles from Bleacher Report to ESPN had LeBron in that, 12 to 15 range. And it's really evident that he's not slowing down, as we stated in the beginning. And I did want to touch on your Zion point at the beginning. The Bleacher Report had posted this. Christian Clark, per the Times, said that the Pelicans, and this might be surprising, guys, so you might want to sit down. Pelicans have told Zion his diet and conditioning need to improve. So we just got that drop right after that game, kind of a bombshell, a remark right there. But like you said, I did see those videos as well of him wobbling up the court. And Charles Barkley was actually on the Bill Simmons podcast not too long ago talking about how, him being a bigger guy and almost in that same kind of mold as Zion getting into the league, that you can cheat your way into the league and you can do that for a little bit, but it's eventually going to catch up to you, and injuries will be extremely prevalent throughout the rest of his career. And it's just kind of sad because, guys like me and you, I think you graduated the year that he was at Duke, or you might have been.
Yeah, we were the same. Yeah, we're both class of 2018. So
just remember those games. Oh my God, just the closing out, jumping from the paint, closing out on 3-point line remarks.
Those windmill 360s. I saw one tweet, definitely made me crack up a little bit. It was somebody was showing old Zion Duke highlights, and they were like, damn, they got people reminiscing about Zion highlights before LeBron's even washed up.
Damn, that's
which it's true. It's true. It's just he's not that same guy. He'll probably never be that same athlete that we saw. It's definitely a great point by Charles Barkley on that as well, where the injuries are just going to catch up to you when you're carrying that much weight and you're not getting your act together. And he needs to, if there's anybody that you're going to listen to about that, it's Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal. Those are two guys that battled kind of issues with their weight throughout the league, but were still dominant and kind of figured out a way to make it work. Not saying that he's either one of those guys very clearly. The injuries seem to have already caught up to him in the last few seasons. So we'll see where it goes with Zion. But it's just a little sad because that 2019 draft with Zion and Ja, like those first couple seasons, we're like, oh, is this the best top two ever? Like, is this the best 1-2 punch that we've ever seen come out of a draft? And it's kind of wait and see time.
It is wait and see time. So before we get to the prediction of the championship, I need to ask you, TJ, are you all out on Zion?
I was out on him when I saw him play the Warriors a few weeks ago, and he was punishing Dario Saric when he was on him, but that's Dario Saric. Like, that's just not a great matchup for that guy. But he catches it in the high post, and he can only go left still. He doesn't have any other moves. They were using him more as a finisher then, and I think he still finished with like 20-plus points in that game. But it was definitely kind of the first time that alarm bells started to go off. And then, with the Lakers LeBron just daring Zion to shoot, he was backed off him 7 feet. It almost felt disrespectful, like they were just playing mind games with him, and it worked. They beat him by 30-plus.
Golly. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to say I'm all out on him. I don't think you can win a championship with a guy of that caliber who just, from all measures of we've seen, does not seem to care about basketball. But talking about that, let's go ahead and give our predictions. The Los Angeles Lakers versus the Indiana Pacers at Las Vegas tonight. Who do you got winning it all? The $500,000 per player.
I got the Lakers.
Oh.
I'm taking the championship pedigree from LeBron and AD. I think they'll have it potentially could have the two best players on the court if Anthony Davis plays right, if they get a big game from him. Overall, I mean, the Lakers, they foul the least in the league, which makes sense if you just think about it. The NBA knows what they're doing with LeBron.
Yeah.
And they get fouled the fourth most, while the Pacers foul the second most. So that's definitely going to be something to watch out for. Like if the Lakers are able to get to the line consistently, that could really kind of keep the Pacers at bay, especially if they're able to get into the bonus early in each quarter. Lakers also are top 7 in field goal percentage at the rim, where the Pacers allow the most there in the league. They just allow the most attempts within 3 feet. And then it's similar numbers from 5 to 9 feet for the Lakers as well. So I expect them to really dominate the paint. The Pacers do score a lot in the paint as well, but I do think the size of Anthony Davis down there can prove more impactful than having Miles Turner going up against LeBron at the rim. So that's one place where a couple of areas where I think the Lakers have the edge. Obviously, the Pacers are still really legit. So I don't know if we want to touch on anything about that there.
Yeah, no, I think your point about the Lakers being the team that fouls the least and gets fouled the most is going to be extremely crucial in this because, like you said, the Pacers be hacking. I watched quite a few Indiana games this year, and just flat out, they be hacking a lot. Just playing such fast-paced offense, sometimes that's going to transition into mismatches on defense, and just it's the better decision at the moment is just to foul somebody at the top of the key, get your defense restarted. They're so deep; they play about 10 guys per game, so I mean. They can go ahead and take those fouls if need be. But I'm going to have to go with the Indiana Pacers on this. I'm going to zag a little bit. I think that the fast pace, as I was just talking about, is going to be too much for this older team. I mean, the Los Angeles Lakers, I don't have the pace numbers in front of me at this very moment.
I do have some of those numbers.
Yeah.
So just comparing their in-season tournament stats to their regular season stuff, as far as offensive rating goes, they're up to 127 per 100 possessions, where the regular season they're just in total are at 123 at roughly an identical pace, still the fastest in the league. Their net rating jumped up from 3.8 to 10 as well. So Halliburton's averaging 27 points, 13.7 assists, and only 1.8 turnovers, shooting 51, 44, 89 in the in-season tournament as well. So all of his important numbers as well have taken a step up. As far as you look at the assists are higher, his points are higher, his field goal percentages, assist to turnover ratio, all that stuff has really taken a step up. And some of the talk about the in-season tournament was that the game was going to slow down a little bit, but the Pacers have not allowed that to impact them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, these are almost polar opposite teams. I mean, we got the big market Los Angeles squad right here, and we got the Indiana Pacers, the small market, the fast-paced, go offense. We have one of the most dominant defenses in the Los Angeles Lakers, and the championship pedigree in the Lakers, and then the new and upcoming squad over here in Indiana. It's really beautiful. I think this is a huge success for the league, and I think the NBA should be capitalizing on marketing Tyrese Halliburton as one of the top 10 best players in the league. And I'm just really excited for it. Maybe Vegas can get a little more amped. I heard the crowd was a little better in the Los Angeles versus Pelicans game, but which
makes sense. A lot of LA fans going to be traveling to Vegas for this.
Exactly. In the 2 p.m. Vegas game where people were still trickling in with 6 minutes left, people were still getting their mimosas at brunch after being hungover the night before. I totally get it. But I think that's going to wrap it up. Did you have any last things you wanted to touch on with this?
I do think I wanted to kind of break down what I think it's going to take for both teams to win this game.
Yeah.
So the keys for what I think will be a Lakers win is going to be get to the line a lot, as we mentioned before. Get to the rim. They're 6th in points in the paint overall, so that's going to be a key. Put pressure at the basket. Not necessarily a great shooting team. They do have some guys that can knock down shots, but it's definitely going to be going downhill, getting pressure at the rim. And then they just have to keep the non-LeBron minutes close. LeBron's his point difference, they're plus 21.2 with LeBron versus without him. So just probably close to the top of the league as far as that goes. Overall, just in terms of their points scored with him on the court, they're plus 13 points per game with him on the court versus without. So if they can just keep those minutes close, I definitely think there's a key there. And then on the other end with the Pacers, they're going to need to continue to push the pace. The Lakers have, looking at the numbers, it kind of surprised me. Their pace is near the top of the league, like top 10-ish. they're going to need to control second chance points on both ends, because the Lakers, they're the last in the league in second chance points, but the Pacers allow the second most second chance points, so we could kind of see that game of chess going there. And then finally, just make the Lakers work at the point of attack. If they're going to be attacking the rim, you got to have your defenders up front. At least make it hard to get by that first guy, and then make it a little easier at Miles Turner at the rim. But I think those are going to be the key. If the Pacers win, that's how it's going to get done. And if the Lakers win, I feel like that's the recipe.
Who do you throw on LeBron? I'm trying to think right now. Are we throwing Bruce Brown? He's a little short. I mean, are we going to throw Buddy Hield? He's also short. I mean, Obi Toppin.
That's what the first name that probably jumped in my head was Obi Toppin, just because of the size. Like, he'll be able to kind of bang with him a little bit more. I don't think it really matters who they put on him. If they can kind of the key here, I think, is to try to contain AD as best as you can with Miles Turner on him, who theoretically could do a pretty good job against Anthony Davis. But it's another thing we'll just have to wait and see what happens tonight.
Anthony Day-to-Day Davis, what will you do? Well, that about wraps it up for our in-season and Suns talk. Coming up next, top 5 and MVP voting for Dash and TJ. And our lists are pretty different. I was a little surprised. But we'll talk about it right now. Coming up next. Was that the same one that you had the wet dream or no?
I hate you so much.
And we're back. We're jumping straight into it. Most Valuable Player of the League award. And me and TJ, it's a general consensus. It should be universal, but according to the NBA's MVP ladder, he's not, which is fucking silly to me. But we have Nikola Jokic.
That guy just wants clicks. Whoever's writing that wants clicks.
Make sure I'm just standing out right here. Don't fit in. But fourth in the West at the moment, having no Jamal Murray, had a bit of a skid. His stats is 28.5 points, a league-leading 13 rebounds per game, almost 10 assists, and leads the league in box plus minus. TJ, what else can we say about Nikola Jokic? I want to hear what you have to do.
I just think someone has to take it from him at this point. He's the clear odds favorite in Vegas right now at plus 175. Second place is Luka at plus 425, so a pretty big jump there as well. One kind of crazy thing that jumped out to me was, so we had that Halliburton game against Boston where he had the 26-point triple-double, 0 turnovers. Somebody crunched the numbers, and it was only one of 7 times that a player had done that. Or it might have been one of 9 times. But Jokic had done it twice in like the previous week. And so it's just absolutely insane. Everybody's like applauding Tyrese Halliburton, as we should, for that performance. But when Jokic has done it twice and nobody even made a peep because it just kind of felt par for the course. I know Jokic, probably the reason that he dropped in that ladder is though he's had a couple of back-to-back really poor shooting nights, which I think he'll get right. I don't think that this is going to be him for the rest of the season. So he also is leading the league in value over replacement player at the moment. So just easily, I think the number one for me, and clearly somebody's going to have to rip this out of his cold dead fingers. Like, he is not going to give it up.
Yeah, and this kind of makes me want to pose a question, since we're just so used to Nikola Jokic, as you said, with the Tyrese Halliburton stat. Can we see Jokic become the Wilt Chamberlain of advanced statistics? I mean, already he has one of the best true shooting percentages of all time, if not the best. He has the best box plus minus of all time, the best VORP of all time already compared to any players since we've recorded this stat. Can you see this possibly happening?
Oh, absolutely. He already is kind of fits that advanced stats mold of just how, and typically those advanced stats, like, guys, they love it when it just looks a little odd on the court, and that's definitely how he plays. He plays so different from anybody else in the league. I know there's some kind of copycats coming in with like Sengun and Sabonis kind of doing impressions of him, but just so dominant across the board. And when you really dig into the numbers, it just backs up the eye test that you see from him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And going back to touch on that MVP ladder, that guy had Joel Embiid as his first spot. And spoiler alert, Embiid isn't even on my top 5 of the list. I'm going with number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, so first off, a guy I think is probably not even on your list, TJ.
Not on my list.
Second spot.
Not on my list.
Just crazy to me. Being the leader of a second-seeded team in the Wild Wild West, he's averaging over 30 points a game, 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists, leads the league in steals per game with 2.8, and is shooting a sexy 57% effective field goal percentage. And I'll keep it 100. He might be the hardest guy to keep in front in the entire league. I mean, the fact that he can stop and go on you 5 times within 5 seconds makes it absolutely impossible to keep him in front. And obviously, I understand he has a really good team. The addition of Chet Holmgren is phenomenal for what they need, but this is a quote-unquote rookie and a bunch of young guys he's with. One of the youngest teams, if not the youngest. I believe they're either number 2, 3, or 1 in terms of youngest teams in the league, and they're just making it happen out there. And while the 3-ball still hasn't, been fully in his bag, he's still able to keep defenses honest with his long-range jumper, which is fairly wet. I mean, I just read out the field goal percentage. Do you have any thoughts on SGA?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this to you a few weeks ago, but I think SGA might be the closest thing we've seen to Kyrie Irving so far. And it's definitely, like, we all know of Kyrie's influence just in the game. Kids love his shoes, love his style of play, and I think SGA just really fits that mold of creative finishes around the rim, great with pump fakes, can just finish among the trees down there. So definitely love SGA. He just didn't make the cut on my top 5. I'm a little disappointed that you don't have Embiid listed, is because he is my number 2. So a little fun. We both left the others number 2 off. But Embiid he's the reigning MVP, and all of his counting stats have improved. More points, more rebounds, more assists. I know you like to say that he's a free throw merchant, and he kind of is. He leads the league in free throws made per game with 10.5. No. Second place is 7.9. So that jump there, but that's free points. Why are we going to discount that? They count just the same. His team's 14-7 right now. He is, which kind of jumped out to me. He's leading the league in usage percentage, so it's really all going through him. Tyrese Maxey has been a great help in terms of the ball just doesn't stick as much anymore as it did before it gets to Embiid. So he's my number 2. I'm not the biggest Embiid fan in the world, as you know, but it's just hard to say that he's not second MVP right now.
It's just so hard for me to, I don't know. I understand this is a regular season award. I really do, but it's just really difficult to see that he's continuing to, be the hub of the offense, which is cool. I mean, his passing has definitely increased at the moment, and he's leading the league in scoring as this podcast is being filmed. But I just cannot stand the flopping and the antithesis of what playoff basketball is. And like I said, I'll say it again, it's a regular season award. But I just can't help but have that in the back of my mind, just watching him over and over and over.
No, and that definitely makes sense, especially when the guy's 7'3", 300 pounds or something ridiculous, and can kind of be soft at points. So it can be a frustrating viewing experience at times, but I still think he's taken a step up from a season where he literally won MVP.
I do get it. I'll be honest. I'm just a hater. I'll be honest to all the Fight Now fans. I'm a fucking hater. Number 3, another guy who I think didn't make your list, and being a fellow open and formerly closeted, or I thought you were a Giannis fan, I hope you can appreciate him being number 3 on my list, even if you don't have him. Averaging 30 points, 10.5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2.7 stocks, all on a career high of 61% from the field. Obviously, they've had their struggles defensively, but that pretty much comes from the point of attack. I mean, Giannis is used to playing with a Drew Holiday-like player, and with the revolving door that is Damian Lillard, that's unfortunately going to happen. Put a lot more pressure on him. And a lot of people are talking about, Giannis is getting cooked on the one-on-ones. Giannis has never been just the best one-on-one defender in the world, just being flat out. He's been a help defender guy, and he's doing his best out there. He's got Brook Lopez still by his side. And I still really like what I'm seeing. You trade in that defensive help from Drew Holiday. You trade it in for efficiency. Like I said, career high 61%. I'm sure that has a lot to do with Damian Lillard creating so much attention. Any words for the Giannis? Is there any reason why you didn't have him on your 5 that really was just sticking out to you?
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with the stats or the numbers. You just listed them all out. They're all phenomenal. I am a huge Giannis fan. Like, I have Giannis shoes. I got a Funko Pop of Giannis sitting on the shelf over here. Like, I definitely love the guy. I've read his book, the biography written about him as well. But the problem with me is it's honestly a vibes thing, where I touched on it earlier. I don't need to harp on it too much, but the being disconnected from his team during timeouts, a lot of weird stuff coming out about coaching issues, and Giannis was the guy that wanted to bring Adrian Griffin in. Like, that decision, they don't hire him without the okay from Giannis, and the fact that they just are not on the same page is very concerning for me. Obviously, this could easily change, and I could easily see him jumping up into my top 5 or even winning the damn thing this year. We still got 60 games ahead of us, but that was my biggest reason for leaving Giannis off the list at this point in the season.
Understandable. So who do you got at 3?
Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh. Okay.
I think if Halliburton wasn't on the Pacers, they would be one of the worst 4 teams in the league. Like, he just does so much for them and creates so much offense there. We spent so much time talking about him already, but he's averaging 27 points, 12 assists, only 2 turnovers, a 5.43 assist to turnover ratio, which is just absurd. And then, like we mentioned before, huge coming out party in the in-season tournament, really putting his name on the map. So maybe it is a little bit more of a hype thing in these last few weeks, but I'll definitely be surprised if Halliburton doesn't finish top 5 in MVP voting this year.
Yeah, no, and I think I personally have him at my number 5 spot, and something I would just like to add on for that is that his efficiency splits are beautiful still. I mean, 52, 44, 88% from the field. One of the wackiest three-point shots we've seen in recent time that's been so damn wet. And I always love to hear about the story, or when it gets brought up, about Steve Kerr talking about how when the Kings drafted Tyrese, they told him, hey, do not touch that kid's shot. That shit is going in every time. Let it be. Great number 3 pick. I understand. Like I said, maybe a little bit with the hype. I do have him at number 5, so just a little bit down. The 5th seed is what kind of deteriorates me from putting him any higher.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what'll limit him later on is just the total wins. Because MVP, in my opinion, it should go to guys that are impacting winning the most. But I do respect the whole thing where it's kind of like the Westbrook case in that one season where they finished as the 6th seed. And even Jokic had a year like that as well, where if this guy wasn't around, they would just be terrible.
Ass. Yep. So I'll transition to the number 4 spot. We got the league's golden child coming in with about 32 points per game, 8.7 assists, 8.4 rebounds on the most shot attempts of his career, Luka Doncic. His efficiencies have dipped just a little bit this year, specifically, but it has given them the 3rd seed in a really tough Western Conference. I think we should give him his flowers. This is becoming another case of just being so used to absolutely absurd numbers, and we need to appreciate them. I mean, how many times has Luka Doncic been the preseason winner for MVP? I feel like every single year since he's been a sophomore, right?
He's such an easy pick for that. It's just like, oh yeah, we're just going to expect a leap from him, and he does it. He's absolutely amazing. Totally respect that pick. And am for the most part a Luka fan. Obviously, there's the issues with the Suns stuff that does kind of get under my skin a little bit.
Yeah.
But I definitely love what they're doing. Totally exceeded my expectations, especially to this point in the season, just after the issues they had once they added Kyrie last year. But it looks like it's coming together nicely, and he's still hooping at such a high level. Luka did not make my top 5 either on this one. Just didn't have the feel for it, and I couldn't justify leaving my next 2 guys off.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Hold on, you're talking about vibes right here. But if we want to talk about vibes, he's got the vibes. In my opinion, he's already got multiple game winners. He's got an insane hook 3-point shot for the
crazy.
Game.
Yeah,
I just think even if we're talking about vibes, or if you want to go purely off numbers, Luka deserves a spot. So I'm really interested to hear who you have at this 4 position instead. It's
another little reactionary here, but I am putting some serious weight into the in-season tournament, I think, just because of all the eyes on that stage. It's LeBron James.
Okay.
I think we have to have him in the conversation at 38 years old, year 21. Still the engine, the tires, the doors. He's everything for that vehicle that is the Los Angeles Lakers right now. The on-off numbers, as I mentioned before, are just absolutely ridiculous. He was a plus 12 against the Suns in a close win, plus 36 against the Pelicans. I know plus minus isn't everything, but when LeBron's on the court, it kind of is everything. I just think he absolutely has to be in the convo.
Definitely understand. The old man is doing his thing. And since I already gave out my 5 and you touched on Tyrese Halliburton, go ahead and give us our last person on your list, who I have a feeling we don't have the same one, right?
Jason Tatum.
Ooh.
I know people are sour on him, especially after that Pacers game. There was a lot more hate on Twitter about him than I expected to see, because I was watching that game. I thought he played excellent. 30 points. He was minus 14, as I mentioned before. That's not great, but and didn't necessarily get it done down the stretch, but was going back and forth with Halliburton. It could easily have gone any other direction in that game. He's 27 points, 8.7 rebounds. They're the best team in the East. And I do think, even though that the Timberwolves technically have a slightly better record than them, I think the Celtics are the best team in the league still, as far as if you're just looking at what their starting five can do. Porzingis, there's some issues if he's going to be healthy or not, but when he's right, the Celtics are amazing, and Jason Tatum is the focal point of all of that. He's got a career high in field goal percentage this year and in true shooting percentage on some lower usage than before. Slightly less trips to the free throw line than last year, but still getting there, like shooting 8 free throws a game. So that's part of his game is just not going to be going away. So I definitely want to give credit to Jason Tatum where it's due. And I felt like I needed to have a Celtics representation on this list.
It makes sense. Best player and the best team in the entire league. Like I said, I understand. I do think the Boston Celtics are a little bit better than Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, I mean, nobody else has really a case on that team. They love Jaylen Brown, love Porzingis. Tatum has kind of stepped it up on defense as much as he can, but, I mean, it's easy to say that. It's easier to buy in when you got Drew Holiday and Derek White just hounding the two guards out there. Not a bad pick. I was hating at first. Not a bad pick, though. Any other final touches, any honorable mentions you wanted to throw out there?
So I think the guys that you had listed that weren't on my list, SGA, Giannis there, definitely, it still got a long way to go. So some more people could even bring themselves into this conversation. As far as you did want to read out some of the odds so far, as far as for betting on MVP, Jokic, as I mentioned before, plus 175. Luka's next at 425. Then we got Embiid. It goes Embiid, Tatum, and then Giannis and SGA tied at plus 1100. Halliburton is behind Giannis and SGA as well at plus 15. And then it comes out with KD and Book plus 2,500, plus 30, plus 3,000. And then LeBron is plus 8,000 right now. So some crazy value there. I could honestly see LeBron winning the award depending on how things shake out. They still got a trade in them with D'Angelo Russell sitting there. I know I've been talking about that all year, but he is not going to be a Laker by the time the playoffs roll around, or even by the time the trade deadline rolls around. So that's kind of where there's still plenty of time left for somebody else to make a case, but this was the best 5 that I could come up with.
About to throw me $10 on that LeBron one. Jesus Christ.
No kidding, right?
Well, shit. We'll go ahead and wrap up this MVP section. And coming up next, we got our new segment called Watch, Record, Netflix. Coming up next, we're hiding a child.
Let that boy come home. Deadbeat motherfucker playing Border Patrol.
And we're back with Watch, Record, Netflix. TJ, you're the one who brought this in. Can we go ahead and explain to the viewers what we mean by this?
So, trying to think of a fun way we could figure out a way to talk about upcoming NBA games for the week, and I thought this was the best way to break it down. A lot of you guys are familiar with the Bang, Marry, Kill game for you folks at home. Basically, that with some slight twists. So obviously, the first one coming up, Watch. This is the game that you're canceling plans. You're telling your grandma you ain't going out to dinner with her tonight. You gotta watch. I gotta be there to watch this game live. Next, we got the Record. So, hey, maybe you want to watch this game, but hey, maybe we're gonna watch it a little bit after. We're gonna do something else during the game. Maybe we're gonna be watching that first game, but definitely want to get back to it. And then third, the Netflix category, saying, I'm not watching this game. I'm throwing on a show. I'm hanging out with the girlfriend tonight. I'll check the box score after the game. I don't need to see what's going on. So on that note, here are the 3 games that I have for you to select your Watch, Record, Netflix. First up, on December 13th, we got the Pacers at the Bucks. The Pacers are 2-0 against the Bucks this season. It's an in-season tournament rematch. They've won those games by a combined 11 points, one by 2 and another one by 9. Up next, we got the Wolves at the Mavs. This is one of those, they haven't played each other yet, but it's kind of an unstoppable force versus immovable object game. Timberwolves are the best defense in the league, and the Mavericks are a top 4 offense. And then third, the Magic at the Celtics. Right now, the Magic won their first meeting this year by 17. Again, we got 2 top 3 defenses going at it. We had seen before with the Magic Celtics in that overtime game where Anthony Edwards was just going off. So those are your 3 options. Where are you going?
Oh,
what game are you watching?
These are awesome selections. Okay, so just, man, off rip. I really, really like that Magic at Celtics game. That looks tasty, but with my watch, I'm going with the Pacers at Bucks. Man, I really am excited to see that. Like I said, I'm anticipating a rivalry potentially between Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, as we've talked about, the discourse around NBA Twitter has been, hey, who's the best point guard in the East? And a lot of people are disrespecting the shit out of Damian Lillard, and we're going to go ahead and say Tyrese Halliburton is the best point guard at the moment. I think I'm going to hit them with a watch. Man, that's going to be an awesome game. And then we got the T-Wolves versus Mavs. Can you repeat again? Is it T-Wolves at Mavs, or is it Mavs at T-Wolves?
Yeah, T-Wolves at Mavs.
Man, yeah. I'm going to have to go with my record, I'm going with Magic at Celtics. I mean, I think this could be a huge game. I would just love to see a lot of the Boston Celtics fans be disappointed at the end with the Magic overtaking them as the first seed in the East. And it'd just be such a legendary moment to see such a young team overcome that first seed. Kind of like something we could potentially see with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the West. But I would love to see that. We even have Porzingis back at this point in time. Since last night, I believe he played. And so that would just be a really, really cool game to see. Love to see how Wendell Carter Jr. Plays Porzingis or whoever they're going to play at that 5 position. And then the T-Wolves are unfortunately going to get that Netflix special. I'm not sure. You know, with the heliocentric offense of the Mavs going against the T-Wolves, I think that might be the way you do break a really good defense in that sense. Nobody in the league can stop him one-on-one. If we're going to spread out 5 out, it's just going to be really impossible for you to stop that. But, you know, who knows? We got Derek Lively versus Rudy Gobert. That'll be a beautiful matchup to see. 2 guys who are just really comfortable around the rim. Yep, but I'm still going to have to give the T-Wolves versus Mavs. Could I hear what you would pick? I know you came up with the list, but do you have a selection?
I would probably throw the Magic Celtics as my watch. I really love Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, and just like watching the Celtics team play as well, especially if they're going to have Porzingis back. Then I'm probably going Wolves Mavs as my record, and then Pacers Bucks as my Netflix.
No,
not because of anything negative about that game, but we just saw it play out. I don't know how much stock I can put into this. Like, it seems like it'll probably just be the Bucks coming out full tilt. The Pacers will be coming off the in-season tournament championship. So I just don't think, maybe potentially with a win. So I don't totally see it there. But to be fair, all 3 of these games are on they're all on different nights. So we're probably going to watch them all anyway. But definitely a fun way to kind of rank out what you're looking forward to the most.
Man, I like that a lot. Golly, those games are going to be fucking phenomenal. Speaking on games that are not that you can't miss, I know we're probably going to have a pod before this, but the Christmas game is going to be really cool. I mean, the Mavericks versus the Suns should be delicious right there. You know, I do think that the Suns, this is going to be
the NBA does a great job of picking good matchups for Christmas Day. Like, it is
absolutely. Narratives.
They know what the fans want to see. Like, all those years that we had the Warriors Cavs, and everyone knows Suns Mavericks rivalry. They got Celtics Lakers playing. Everybody knows about that. Warriors Nuggets, that's got some other kind of tasty undertones to it. Heat Sixers, Knicks Bucks, like, they do a phenomenal job with that stuff.
Love it. And Knicks Bucks, we didn't even get to talk about in that in-season tournament, but Julius Randle always has just a fucking some type of oomph against the Bucks teams, because that man had 41 points and started off 9 for 9 in that game. You know, I'm a closeted Julius Randle fan. I'll say it for all the fans out there. And I'm just really
for anybody wondering, Dash also hoops just like Julius Randle. In case you were wondering, that's also his player comp.
Right-handed Julius Randle, I love it. But man, anything else to add at the end of this podcast? Number 10, double digits.
Number 10, baby, double digits. We did it. We're here. Just absolutely thrilled. Super hyped for this game coming up tonight. Hopefully, you can get some ears on this before that happens. Just thrilled with NBA basketball so far, and we got football is wrapping up here in the next few months. So definitely just hitting their stride, and just absolutely excited.
Awesome be ahead of the curve. You know, when everybody comes crawling back to the best sport in the world, NBA, we'll already be here. We'll have some content for everybody to catch up on. But thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Episode 11 coming out next Saturday. Hopefully, I'll be over this little goofy sickness that we're at right now. But like I said, thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a phenomenal rest of your day.
Nice.